All right, should we start with Agatha then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me pop up my.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get started here. I put a tentative schedule in the chat. We can change it around however it works. I'll put it again for those who just joined us. This will be the morning session. So we'll go to 11:30 or so, maybe 12, probably 11:30. And then in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, we will do the afternoon session where I'll get into MATLAB and FSL and things like that. So for the introduction, we have Agatha.
Okay. Oh, I guess I should play this. Now you can't see, can you? One moment, sorry. Wrong order. Order of operations. Let me reshare that. There we go. There we go. All right, well, hello. This is fantastic. It's always nice to see new faces. Who's actually new? All right, good. You guys are new. And then are there any hands in our online? Perfect. Okay, so we do have a few really new folks. That's awesome. So so welcome to the boot camp. I shouldn't be doing the introduction. I'm doing the welcome to the CCN.
You
but,
should be doing the CCN.
So welcome to Staglin One Mind. I am HRO Center for Cognitive Neuroscience. Welcome to boot camp. So I'm here to tell you a few things about what the center is, who I am, who these folks are, and it sort of set the stage. And so a little bit of background on the center. It's almost 14 years now, founded in 2010 with donations from the Staglin family who are featured here. And the center was a really interesting project. As you know, there's the ABMC Center right across the street, right? So there's a brain mapping center. And this was a complementary effort really to join a good number of researchers in psychiatry and psychology who were interested in creating a center focused on research and training and education. And so the philosophy was always a little bit different. It wasn't just a service for MRI or fMRI. It was always meant to be a research and educational training center. And so that was the goal. And with the gift from the Staglin family, it was founded. It was designed. Next year, I'll throw in some of the design pictures. So it was designed locally and really built for this community. So it's always a very sort of internal kind of project. And so here are the original players, Dr. Susan Buchheimer, Mark Cohen, who is the original technical director, Ty Cannon, who was a psychiatrist here studying schizophrenia, now Yale, I believe, and Russ Poldrak, who you may know was in psychology. And so that was kind of the core team, although there were actually many others. These are just the core, this was the core group involved in the planning, et cetera. And I urge you to visit the One Mind Center every now and then, check out what's behind us. It's an amazing organization. The Staglins have been very, very supportive of all kinds of mental health research. They've been very open about schizophrenia and their family, and how they dealt with it and how they want to support the research. But they've really been an amazing supporter of the center. And if you don't know, I always put it up here. IMHRO is an international mental health research organization. Originally, it was Staglin, IMHRO Center for Cognitive Neuroscience. It became One Mind once they founded the organization. And so that's kind of our environment, our center. And as I mentioned, it serves a very, very broad community. So psychiatry, psychology are big ones you may think of in neuroimaging, but we have neurology, radiology, neurosurgery, nursing, Eye Institute. I mean, really many, many centers. You probably may remember additional ones that have been joining. We have a lot of users. And you may or may not know, and we're growing. We provide an all-inclusive NMR data collection service, as well as EEG, concurrent EEG, fMRI, ultrasound research. And in the spirit of being a research and training center, we often welcome new ideas, which I think is my next slide. So we do have a mission. This is essentially what I just said. This is on our website as well. Here it is stated formally. Our mission as a center is to facilitate research education and training, and the last to differentiate us really from many other centers on campus. Technological, and this facilitates this technological development, which we're open to, and complementary activities with the aim of understanding structure and function of the brain across lifespan in disease, in cognition basic science, right? And so we've always strived to be at the cutting edge of tech dev, hardware development, data science, and translation to improve mental health ultimately. And actually, the CEMEL is a really interesting organization that sort of straddles psychiatry and basic science. And so that's very much reflected in the center. And here's some pictures, which I promise I will update by next year. I've been getting lazy over the years. These are really outdated. So we need some pictures from this boot camp, actually, over the next 2 days, maybe, to replace the neuroimaging training program, which hasn't happened for a few years. But I guess this is the beginning of the new one, the new phase. And some pictures of Mark Cohen and Jesse here in our EEG caps. And some beautiful modeled pictures of us staring aimlessly at some brains on the screen, as we do for photo opportunities with my colleague at the time, Ariana Anderson. Okay, now here's an important one, who's who. You probably get lots of emails, names, and so this is kind of helpful to orient you to know who's who in the center. So our director is Susan Buchheimer, who you've probably met and seen. And as I mentioned, she was here from the very beginning of the center. And the center is governed through the collaboration of people who directly run it and the CCN Executive Committee, which is meant to include also folks from other departments. So it's not just psychiatry or just CEMEL. So you'll recognize some faces here from psychology. We have Martin Monti, Jesse Risman, Ariana Galvan. And then this is also Taylor Kuhn, who also assists with operations. And then in the next level, we have, is that me? Or
Yeah.
very possibly. All right, no problem. All right, here we go. We're back. So then we have, let's see, we have Dr. Robert Welsh, who's our Chief Director of Technology. He's a physicist, very talented physicist, and really will help you out with pretty much anything sequence or tech related. And he co-directs along with Lucinda, Dr. Uden, whom you know from this workshop, the MRI analysis core, of course, with Jason's invaluable help. And then we have myself. I do all things operations, really. So I bridge the gap in many places. You'll probably interface with me regarding the pilot program, or sort of odd issues that arise with setting things up. We also have somebody whom you may not have seen, but will be increasingly important in the coming years, Mirella Diaz-Santos, who's working with us on improving outreach and EDI diversity-related sort of elements to who we are as a center. And then we have Marla Torres, who's our chief administrator. You've probably seen her name. I used to say, if you need anything at all, Marla will fix it. Now I kind of say, if you need anything else, don't contact Marla, because she's so busy and also so invaluable to the center. And then let's see, we have Jared, from whom you'll hear, who's sort of our head on the ground, our manager in the MRI lab. And Melody Yin, who's increasingly important, actually taking on more and more of the day-to-day roles at the center. So you'll hear about that a little bit more from Jared, I believe. And last but not least, by any stretch, we have Hyan, who's here, and we'll talk to you shortly, who is our system administrator, overseeing the sort of DICOM, all the image sort of storage backup, as well as all the Hoffman administration. And her right hand person is Jonathan Hernandez, who's a programmer analyst and is taking on more and more responsibilities, supporting you guys as a community from the computing end. So this is us. So welcome, enjoy the boot camp. This is sort of a special treat, and I think a really awesome new tradition that's now in its second year.
Thanks. Thanks, Agatha. And do we have any questions while we have all the folks together? Feel free to either put them in the chat or just hop up if you're in the room. Are you gonna do Jared from this computer? Okay. All right. Over here.
Yeah. Hey everyone, hello everyone. Thanks Agatha for the great intro. My name's Jared Gilbert. I'm the lab manager here at the Stagland Center. You'll see me kind of in the lab. I'm kind of day-to-day operations for the most part, and I'm going to give you some introductory notes about what to expect when you want to start doing research at CCN, kind of some of our kind of basic policies, the structure of the safety trainings, and the resources we have available for you all to review. There we go. Okay, yeah. So agenda. So first, and probably most importantly, is how do you actually start collecting data at Stagland Center? At least for our part, the majority of my time spent on the MRI side. The EEG and the ultrasound sections are growing, but MRI is still kind of our major modality. So if you're going to be collecting MRI research at the Stagland Center, we have a course, a safety and training course, which you can enroll in, and it's run through Brew and Learn, and all of the necessary kind of resources and information can be found on the course site itself. Every module has it's a modular setup, right? You complete one module, you move to the next module, et cetera. And every module has introductory pages with instructions, kind of gives you everything you need in one self-sustaining course. And it's on a 2-week rotating schedule. We're Melody Yen, who's our colleague, and she also works in a lot of the kind of day-to-day operational stuff. She helps with the training course, and we're slammed. We run like 6 or 8 sessions a month, and they're pretty much all full within 24 hours of putting them up on the site. So if you're having trouble getting a space, it's not because there aren't any at the moment, it's because they're all booked up. So please be patient. We try and put new ones out every couple of weeks, or whenever we can find time on the calendar. So if there isn't anything available, just make sure you're enrolled in the course, and then you can get notifications from Brew and Learn whenever new sessions are created on the course calendar, and you can go in and sign up. And it's important that they're always scheduled in pairs. So you have a walkthrough training and you have an operations training, and you have to schedule those together. All right. So for example, you can't do the operations training and then do the walkthrough training after, right? You have to do the walkthrough first and then the operations, and they're always booked in pairs at the same time on the same day, 1 week apart. So make sure you sign up for them in pairs, because if you forget and then someone else takes your operation spot, then it's kind of, we have to go through the whole process of like coordinating, canceling their session. And anyway, it just makes it a lot easier to try, do your best to try and follow the scheduling policies. It makes Melody and myself, it makes our lives a bit easier. The enrollment link can be found on the CCN Slack. And so please reach out to myself or Melody to put you on the email, the user list, and the CCN Slack. They're great resources for chatting with community and getting updates from us about ongoings of the center, whether it be guidelines or new policies or operational issues with the scanner or data collection. And on the resources channel, you can find the enrollment link for the Brew and Learn course. Okay, so once you enroll, then you'll be able to sign up for the trainings and look at the materials and all of that. Okay. Any questions? This is again, it's all pretty self-sustaining on the actual course, but if there's any questions about the course itself or how the training functions, you can feel free to ask now, or
Jared, thank you for putting EEG and ultrasound in there. EEG is set. I should have done that on my slides. EEG is all set up. So anybody who does want to do EEG can reach out to me directly. The ultrasound is coming in terms of Brew and Learns, but it will be there eventually.
Yes. Or Melody. Yeah. Yeah, email one of us and we can add you to the Slack channel. And that way you'll have, we have a really great resources page that Melody keeps up that has kind of all of the links you might ever need for all things ongoing at CCN. So yeah, join the Slack and then you'll have access to all the resource pages and of course the community. So one of the the Brew and Learn site is one important resource and website to be aware of. Next is the SciStat site, which is our scheduling site. And this is where you create a project for your MRI project, right? You create a project officially on the SciStat site where you can that's where you input your personnel, your funding, your IRB information, and that's where you actually schedule scans for the calendar, right? For the MRI schedule. And we have information about this on the actual site. There's an about page that goes through instructions and has a flow chart on all of the things necessary for you to get started with your project on the scheduling site. And there's also important information about about all your personnel and your certifications and things like that. One thing that I'd like to point out is when you're inputting project information, there's an extended form that you should fill out when you're inputting a new project, which goes through number of expected scans per week, how long each scan will be, what's the project start and end date, the goal for that form is so that we can try and make sure that we are managing scan load both currently and for the future of the MRI schedules, that we don't get overburdened with requests. And so it's important to make sure that those values that you put into that form match what you are essentially promising or inputting into your grant for the during the funding process. And we need to make sure as best as we can that groups kind of abide by those numbers, essentially, right? By those numbers of scans per week, by those project starts and end dates, so that we don't have a group saying that they're promising 2 scans per week, but they're booking 10 scans per week, right? So we can see those values input in the project information form, and so we want to make sure that groups are kind of abiding by those values. Of course, if there are exceptions for very short projects or very time-sensitive projects, we make exceptions for those depending on the circumstances, but you can always reach out to us if something like that needs to happen. All right. So the Wix, the Staglin Center has a website for, I don't know if it's, I will share my screen so you can see the Wix site. This is really kind of like a public-facing site. What this website is good for is sharing with participants, promoting your labs or your projects, and finding information about educational opportunities, some information about the team, which Agatha just went through, and also about the foundation. So I will share the... So this is the Staglin Center for Cognitive Neuroscience Wix website. You can again, you can find this on the resources page, or you can just Google Staglin Center CCN UCLA and you'll find it. But some important things is you can get some information about our services, including the analysis core. You can get information about participating in research. So this is often a useful page to share with your future participants. It gives some information about what are the risks, what is an MRI, what if I have an implant. Also gives some information about things like EEG and LifeUp, and information about getting to CCN and all of that. So it also highlights some ongoing studies and research labs. So I think at this point we have all of the current labs. There might be a couple that are being added in, or that are starting projects that might not be in here. So if you are a new lab or you want to promote a project, you can reach out to Melody and she'll be able to update this information on the page. And then just to, you know, kind of make sure that everyone's in the loop, and we'll get to the wiki in a moment, but this is, there's a page for the community just to kind of get you back to all of the information that's important for CCN community. So the scheduling site, the training course, and then the wiki and other resources. So just in case you find yourself on this page and you're trying to get to a different website, you can from here. Okay.
This looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a year in the making. Where's my...
Yeah, you folks on Zoom are seeing the new and improved website. Very, very improved.
It's the only one we've ever had.
And then other resources. So as I said, CCN email list and Slack channel, and you can email me or Melody or Lucina, and we're all happy to help. And then I'm going to take you to one more website, which is the CCN Wiki, which is also much improved recently. So sorry for all of the screen sharing and changing, but so this is the wiki, and it has lots of information about all kinds of troubleshooting. It's got some stuff about the EEG. It has information about DICOM and Hoffman, which Hyon and Jonathan have you know, added to over the years as well. But if you're looking for MRI information, Melody and I have really done our best over the last 12 months to really fill this out with really helpful stuff. So not only you know, information about scan procedures and billing and refunds, but it also has information about starting projects and adding personnel and all kinds of really helpful things. And we're adding things here all of the time. One important section I'd like to highlight is, well, there's a common questions and concerns page that I recommend all folks to look at. But there's also peripheral equipment troubleshooting guides. So if you're having trouble with the bold screen, or you're having trouble with firm, or you're having trouble with the response devices, you know, please take a look at the setup and the troubleshooting and things like that. Our message really for these is, please try and check the documentation first before reaching out to us. We're always happy to help, but it makes everyone's life a little bit easier if you can find it on the documentation and follow the guide. And then if it still isn't working, then you can call me or you can call Melody, and we're happy to assist you. But you know, we put a lot of work into getting these resources available. And so it can get a little frustrating when somebody calls us and says, you know, the bold screen's not working, or the button box isn't working, when we have really viable troubleshooting guides here, which could have probably easily solved your problem a lot faster, you know, than fumbling over the phone with me fumbling, not you fumbling, me fumbling. So please take a look at these when you run into problems, or maybe even beforehand. If you know you're going to have a scan that's going to use the button box, maybe take a look at this or have it open during your session in case something's not working out.
That the wiki is so thorough and complete that I've had people email me and say, I want to have a film crew come to the scanner. What should I do? And there's guidelines for filming on the wiki. It's Hollywood. You're going to get a lot of these requests. So
Yeah.
it's actually a system of how you need to apply. And if you want to do filming, it's all documented on the wiki. So almost nothing hasn't been thought of. So check first.
Yeah, check it out. Thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, we're always adding new stuff, really. I'd say like every other week, a new section will go up there, or an update will come up from something we've experienced at the center. So please take a look at that. It's a really great resource, and big thanks to Melody, and also for helping out with that. Okay, cool. Any questions from? That's it for me. I'm sure I'll be seeing, or hopefully I'll be seeing all you folks around. If you have any questions, you can ask them now, or you can reach out later. I'm always, or I try to be available as much as possible. So, any questions? No. Okay. All right. Thanks very much, and I'll see you all soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Jared.
Mhm.
All right. Now I'm gonna share. Thanks, Agatha. Thanks so much. All right. Is that showing up okay? I think it is. Okay, and you guys can still hear all right? Volume still working? Okay, great. So hi, everyone. I'm Lucina Udine. I'm the co-director of the CCN Data Analysis Core. And I'm happy to share with you some of the educational resources that you can find as part of CCN. And to share with you some cool brain videos. So here we go. Next slide. There we go. All right. So many of you are wanting to learn about MRI data analysis, or maybe you have some experience from your previous institution and now you want to kind of get started here. So it may not be exactly the same as what you did in the past, or maybe you're just starting for the very first time. So we have a lot of kind of things we can do to ease you into it. So I'm focusing here on MRI, but of course, some of you might be working on EEG or other methods. And we also have, like Agatha kind of runs an EEG journal club. There's lots of other resources for other imaging modalities. I'm going to focus a little bit on MRI today because that's what my lab works on. So we have, as part of CCN, or as connections throughout the larger neuroscience community here at UCLA, we have journal clubs that are relevant. I'll point out some of those to you today. We have data analysis work groups and workshops that Jason Nomi typically runs, so I'll mention some of those. We have seminars that are happening all across campus, so I'll try to link you to some of those. There's coursework, there's actual, if you're in the psych department or in psychiatry, you can look on the UCLA schedule of classes and you'll find some relevant courses. You may be able to audit them if you talk to the faculty, or they may just, point you to the course materials if you don't want to take it as a formal course. Of course, different labs have lab meetings, and you can find out about many of those from just kind of emailing the faculty of the labs that you're interested in. I've never met a faculty member who said, no, you can't come to my lab meeting. So chances are, if you're wanting to learn something about what a particular lab does, they'll just have weekly meetings that you can attend. We have workshops that I've mentioned, or I'll get a little bit more into. We have done Brain Hack in the past. We didn't do it last year, but we might start that up again. We have the Slack channel that Jared mentioned. So you have lots of different sources of support depending on what kind of activities you want to learn more about. So I'll try to walk you through some of that today. Okay, so one thing I wanted to put on everyone's calendar is that we usually have at least once a year. I think we probably do it, is it twice a year? But at least once a year, we have a CCN user meeting that's for all users. The next one will be coming up October 18th, 2023. That's a good time to come if you're actively scanning or just about to start scanning, because we'll tell you things like, for example, we had a scanner upgrade last spring. So what to anticipate in, preparation for the scanner upgrade. For example, the one we had in the spring required everyone to redo their entire protocols and start over again. So if you know about, so if you come to CCN user meeting, we kind of keep you up to date with what to look for on the horizon, or, just things to be aware of, maybe we're going to buy some new equipment. Maybe we're going to get information about what lab requires new button boxes for a different kind of study, that kind of thing. So it's a really good idea for someone in your lab to come to the CCN user meeting to get up to date on all of that. So we'll be doing that coming up next month. Now we have what's called the Neuroimaging Affinity Group. This is an affinity group under the Brain Research Institute. It basically functions as a journal club. So we have, it's kind of a long mission statement, but to bring together the neuroimaging community to discuss the field's most recent findings and methodological developments. So different kinds of imaging modalities are represented. We host bi-monthly meetings throughout the academic year. They usually are member-led, basically journal clubs, presentations, discussion. Sometimes we're just doing roundtable discussions or faculty-led kind of sessions. So the website for that is listed here. Usually Jesse Risman, who's a professor in psychology, he usually runs this. It's a course you can actually sign up for course credit if you're a graduate student. You can also, of course, just attend if you want to attend. And I usually am there with him as well, so you can contact me for more information. We're going to be doing for this fall 2023 every other Wednesday at 2 p.m. First meeting will be October 4th. If you are a psychology graduate student or a neuroscience IDP graduate student, typically you end up taking this at some point formally, but a lot of people just take it casually as well, just to come, discuss articles with people from other research groups. And usually there's two students across psychology and neuroscience who co-lead this. Last year it was a student from our lab and another one from psychology. This year I'm actually not 100% sure who the student leaders are, but hopefully they will make themselves known. So this is a great place to just get together and talk about research. You can present your own, you can be a presenter too as well in this group. So that's a good group to consider. So that's affinity group. And then we in 2022, we had some funds to bring in a speaker. So we brought in Paul Thompson and, he gave a nice colloquium and we had a big reception afterwards with him, wine and cheese and all of that. So as you can probably imagine, there was a lot of disruption to all of these activities during COVID. So a lot of things turned to virtual or, slowed down or were no longer happening. So we're trying to get this more regularly. The colloquium, distinguished speaker, we're trying to get it up and running again. We skipped it for last year, but we skipped it more recently, but we'll probably be doing it again. It's nice when we have speakers from outside and we get, a chance to get together over wine and cheese, of course. So that's something that the affinity group does. This is something that I started. So I came to UCLA 2 years ago in September 2021. And so I'm one of the co-directors of the Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study, one of the co-investigators here at UCLA. And I'm also one of the associate directors of the entire study focusing on justice, equity, diversity, inclusivity. So I've been in that role for a year now. So basically what I've tried to do is create a space for people who are getting into this data set to come together and talk about issues they're having with their data, how they're going about analyzing, modeling, longitudinal stuff like that. And so this group basically is providing a community for individuals who are already working on or are interested in starting to work on data collected as part of this ABCD study. And the reason we're focusing on this, it's a data set of 11,000 individuals who were scanned or who were basically participating in the study at age 9 and 10 and have been followed up longitudinally for years. They're now 15, 16. It's going to go on until 2027. It's a huge data set of imaging, resting state tests, diffusion, neuropsych eval, mental health, and substance use evaluation. A lot of people are starting to use this data set. And what I found is that there's a big barrier to entry to understanding all the variables and working with it. So that's why we created this group, so people could come together and share their experience. So what we try to do with this group is meet the opposite Wednesdays of when the neuroimaging affinity group goes. So if this one is, if Jesse's group meets October 4th, we would meet a week after that, and then neuroimaging, and then this. So either every other week, or maybe we'll do it once a month. We haven't decided yet for this group, but the first one will be October 25th, if you're interested, or if anyone in your lab is interested. Usually we get a good group going. So that's something that I'm leading. So as Agatha mentioned, we have, strangely enough, a whole other neuroimaging center as part of this campus. It's called Brain Mapping Center. They've been around for a long time, and they have a seminar series. It went on Zoom for a while, and now it's sort of back in person. Maybe it's hybrid. But in any case, this is a speaker series that happens once a month. I believe it's Thursdays, 11 a.m. Another great opportunity to see speakers from all over the place. This is my niece who's watching a brain mapping seminar last year when they were still on Zoom. Obviously, really enjoyable, good times. Everybody loves brain mapping seminars. So it's another kind of place to meet other researchers who are involved in brain mapping more broadly. The reason I'm mentioning all of these things is because UCLA is enormous. And there's a lot of pockets of activities going on, and you might not even be aware of them. And you might there's so many speakers going on, so many colloquia, there's so many listservs you can be a part of. But what I'm trying to do is pick out the ones that are most relevant for the neuroimaging community, especially if you're starting into it for the first time. it's good to get on the listserv. So you can like go to the Brain Mapping Center website, get on their listserv for their brain mapping seminar. Maybe you don't want to go every week, but sometimes a speaker comes that's really relevant to your topics and you want to show up that week. So now that it's back in person, it's also just more fun. So that's something I would advise getting on the list for. So this is, how many of you in Zoom or in the audience are a graduate student right now? Yeah, okay, so some of you also on Zoom, some of you are graduate students. Yeah, many of you probably. So this is a class that you can take. It's listed under psychology. Martin Monti, who's also one of the on the executive board for CCN, Martin Monti teaches this class. It is highly, highly, highly recommended to take a class like this from him. It's probably, this is the main one I think that you can take, but he teaches it pretty much every fall. It's called Computational Methods for Neuroimaging. It will take you from the basics of data collection and MR physics all the way through to the statistics and data analysis. And it's really very hands-on. There's a lot of actual data analysis that you do in this class. It looks like it's full right now. It says no wait list 20, but you can always contact him and see, if it's possible. I don't know if he's taking more people at this point, but in any case, this is always a good one to get into. For some, I think it might be required for some students, but even if you're not sort of in those graduate programs, it's still like a very, very, very relevant course for data analysis. So that's one I highly recommend. Another one is a course that Susan Bookhammer herself teaches called Functional Neuroanatomy for Neuropsychologists. Here you will actually be looking at the brain and naming everything. By the end of it, you will know like the name of every sulcus, every gyrus, you'll just know where things are. And I think obviously as a neuroimager, you'll want to have that knowledge at some point. So this is a really good one for that purpose. It's a very small class. And it ends up being, I think a lot of clinicians take it, but it's also available for other folks who want to enroll or audit. It's in psychiatry, called Functional Neuroanatomy for Neuropsychologists. All of these slides we can make available on the Slack later on. So if you missed something, you can find it later. This is something called Methods in Developmental Cognitive Neuroscience. I've taught this with Mirella DiPreto in the past. I think we teach it every other winter quarter, although I'm not sure, but we did teach it one winter quarter and not last winter. So I assume that means this year we teach it again. This is more focused on developmental neuroimaging. So both Mirella and I do imaging studies of autism spectrum disorder kids. She actually scans infants, babies, tiny kids. My lab does more 7 to 12-year-olds. So we talk a lot about methods for data analysis and data collection in this particular subfield of cognitive neuroscience. And so if you're interested in that, I do believe we'll be teaching it in the winter quarter. And this is basically an intro to all the both basic and advanced MRI data analysis workshops. Most of them, Jason Nomi, who you met already or over email, or in any case, probably already asked for help with lots of things. He's been doing workshops like this for the last several years since we came to UCLA. Sometimes they're on basic fMRI data pre-processing. We have some recordings available from the last one, but we'll be doing them again every year. So watch out for those on the CCN listserv in the slide. Sometimes he does more advanced workshops, like, for example, he's done one on dynamic functional connectivity analysis, a particular type of analysis that our lab does a lot. We did that last year. We'll probably, do something again this year. So, contact Jason to find out when the next ones will be. You can also propose like, hey, I really want to learn more about this type of analysis. Can you guys put together a workshop? Or actually, that's what we're here for. So, if you say like, I'm getting into diffusion weighted imaging for the first time and I really want to learn something about it, we can put together a workshop if, enough people are interested. So do feel free to come to us with suggestions. So this is just an example of like what you would learn in one of Jason's workshops of how to compute, metrics for brain dynamics, like frequency of occurrence of brain states, state transitions, etc. He's done, I don't know if you've done one or you're going to do one on co-activation pattern analysis, another way of looking at brain dynamics. And so we also have a lot of outside speakers. So during the pandemic, we got super creative and did a lot of Zoom workshops where people could come from all over the world. We had Zoom journal clubs. We had, this was actually during the pandemic, we made the transition from University of Miami to UCLA, but we were doing all kinds of workshops on Zoom. So like Jeanette Mumford, Phil Reese, they're psychologists and statisticians who've done workshops for us in the past. We've had workshops from electrical engineers and computer scientists. Here's a few of them. Katie Gates, Shrikant Riley, Katie Chang, Manish Sagar. All of these are like people who develop methods in fMRI data analysis that we've asked over the years to come and speak to us on different topics. We've had Mika Rubinoff, who made the brain connectivity toolbox. We've had Ted Satterwaith, who has done a lot of work on motion correction in pediatric neuroimaging. And Nathan Spring, we've had do a couple workshops for us. In fact, he just did one recently. Some of you might have seen this one. On functional brain network and dynamic multivariate task fMRI analysis. This was it last week? Yeah, September 18th. So we have a recording available from that workshop. This was a hands-on workshop where Dr. Spring took us through how to do a partial least squares analysis using MATLAB. So some of these are really hands-on, like you show up with your laptop and he runs you through a data set. We do, so Jason Nomi is kind of in charge of organizing a lot of these workshops, again, like getting input from all of you in the community and figuring out what would be most useful and then just making the workshops. We try to provide lunch and things like that. So, and then when we first arrived, we actually did a virtual brain hack. This was back when everything was still virtual. So has anyone ever been to a brain hack or participated in a brain hack? It's kind of a day, it's like a loosely organized conference where we do like really short data blitzes in the morning, or at some point we do like talks from graduate students, trainees, postdocs, like 10-minute or 5-minute talks, really short data blitzes. We have networking activities and workshops and data analysis kind of training events. So we've done this once before entirely virtually. We can do it again in person, which is always more fun. So we can plan that as well. Sometimes we link up with other brain hack events that are happening across the country and across the world. So this is kind of a fun way of getting to know other people who are doing imaging stuff at UCLA. This is the Slack that Jared mentioned. You can email me or him or Melody and we'll get you on there. Anyone can be on here and you can talk about anything you want. So it's really a good place for troubleshooting and just meeting other people who might be working on similar problems that you're working on. This is Robert Welsh, who's actually also the co-director with me of the data analysis core, and he's the technical director of the Imaging Center. So all things like sequences and data acquisition, that's his domain. And he wanted to share a few slides here about other courses that you can find that are more dedicated training courses. Like there's one that he runs in Utah, training in advanced statistical methods in neuroimaging and genetics. 6 months of continued education online. There's one at the University of Washington called Neuro Academy, or it's run out of University of Washington. There's some introductory courses for FSL. One of our lab members just took this. It's a 2-week course online. You have to pay a few $100s for it, but it's really hands-on. There's a University of Michigan course, that's an SPM-based course. So as you can see, there's lots of ways to get your training, whichever makes the most sense for you. You don't have to do them all. You pick kind of what makes the most sense for your own goals. He's got another slide in here. This is some more things. I love Mumford Brain Stats. It's a YouTube channel and a blog created by Jeanette Mumford, a really well-known statistician. She's also written a book on analysis of fMRI data, which is a great book. Andy's Brain Blog. If people, there's a book, there's a blog. He basically walks you through how to do everything on FSL, SPM, I think AFNI as well. Really hands-on. NIH has an AFNI course. AFNI is like really difficult to learn, but hey, if you want to learn it, by all means, take a course and go for it. It's a very useful tool. There's the FSL listserv. I've shown a picture, or we've got a picture on the left of FSL's listserv, on the right of SPM's listserv. These are all kind of discussion forums and places. You can go and ask any question. You can look it up and see if somebody asked a similar question in the past. And this is a little ad for Robert's course that's taking place next year in Utah, neurostatsbootcamp.org, where you can sign up for this if you're interested. I believe it costs some money to sign up. But the application deadline is coming up November 1st. You know, it's really an intensive course of, you know, a lot of hands-on learning with statisticians, network neuroscientists, and folks that you can see here. So Robert Welsh directs this program and has been doing it for a number of years. And it's more advanced training, but some of you might be at that stage of wanting to do that. That's it for the training stuff. Like I said, we're all here for answering questions, but there's also there's a lot going on at UCLA. So feel free to follow up if you missed anything, and I'll put all of this on Slack. And now you'll get a little bit more training on some hands-on stuff from Jason and Hyan. Any questions before I sign off from here?
All right.
Okay.
Any questions? No? Okay. So I'm just gonna show you a little introduction to Linux, the Linux terminal. So in neural imaging, you're pretty much gonna use Linux or MATLAB or some kind of coding language, Python, R, something like that, because the data that we deal with is just too massive to do anything by hand. So, quick introduction to the Linux terminal. Unfortunately, you'll probably need was there a question? You'll probably need a Mac. I think you can get a Linux terminal going on a PC. Can you?
Yeah.
Wouldn't recommend it though.
Just you have to install the third party first, yeah.
Yeah, so you can look into that. Other than that, or not other than that, on that, I would recommend looking at Andy's brain book. So Lucina just talked about this. So let's actually, if you want to Google Andy's brain book and go into there, he actually has a nice little thing. So Andy's brain book. And then if you go onto the website for Andy's brain book, he's going to have a little introduction to Unix or the Linux terminal. And what you can do if you're on your Mac is you just type in terminal into your Finder, and you should get your terminal like this. And it might be a little intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of it, it will make your life a million times easier. And in a bit, Hyan will talk about how to use this to get onto our supercomputer and things like that. And if you have technical troubles with Linux or Unix, you can talk to Hyan. She is our resident expert. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction here. So on the documents I also sent out, you should have downloaded FSL. And if you downloaded it correctly through your terminal, you can just type in FSL and you should get the FSL GUI to pop up. Is mine not popping up? Whoops.
Probably off the screen somewhere.
Where did it go? Should be up there. Oh. What happened? Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure on mine.
Click on there's that button that like makes your screen do this.
Which one?
This button that makes your screen pop up all your windows. It's like there's one of these buttons that, yeah.
Oh,
It's
it's still not popping up.
Oh.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so just taking a little bit. So through your terminal, you're gonna access all kinds of things. So for example, FSL. We'll go into using some FSL commands in just a bit, but you can also type in things like an FSL command, and it will give you instructions. So some things you can type in like FSL mean TS. We'll be using this command later. And if you have FSL hooked up with your terminal, you can just type in an FSL command like this, FSL HD or FSL mean TS, and it will bring up basically instructions for that command and how you can use it, and then we'll go through this in a little bit later. But you should get really familiar with this Linux terminal because it allows you to do all kinds of things. And if you go onto Andy's brain book, he has a little introduction here, and we'll just go through some basics. Because you should familiarize yourself with all of this. Anytime you're manipulating data or copying data or formatting data, you're going to want to code it. Just because if you do it by hand, it's going to take you probably weeks. Whereas if you code it, it'll take you, a few hours probably. So if you go into your terminal, first thing you can do, let's go to Unix tutorial 1. So you can go through Andy's brain book tutorial here. I'll just go over it real superficially. But basically your Linux terminal here gives you access to all the files on your computer. So instead of paying no attention to this mess. So if you have your own Linux terminal, you can access everything that you see on your desktop through this terminal here. So first thing, if you're in here, you can just do pwd, and that's going to tell you where you are. So I'm in the directory users Jnomi here. And if you want to navigate somewhere, you can type in something like ls. So list the files or folders inside of your current directory. So we just want to cd into our desktop here, change directory. That's going to allow you to move through the Linux terminal. So we can do cd into our desktop. And then if we do ls list the files in our desktop, you can see all the files here. So this is basically just a representation in list form of all the icons on your screen here. And by doing this, you can do all types of stuff, and we'll get into some minor coding loops later on this afternoon. But basically, this is a way to access your document through the terminal, and you can manipulate things. You can make directories, copy directories, move directories. Andy's brain book will have all of these things in here for you, so you can take a look through that. So he has a bunch of exercises. So kind of what we just did. ls list all the files. Or pwd, where are you inside of the folder structure and things like that. And essentially what you're doing is just accessing your folder structure. So instead of looking at the GUI or the folders or anything like that, you're going to look at that through the terminal here. And then by doing that, you can do all kinds of things. Copy your files over, move your files, different things like that. So you can take a look at Andy's brain book again for all of this. And he goes through some other commands here. And there are many, many introductory tutorials to Unix and Linux. So you can just Google something. Just Google introduction to Linux or whatever command you're interested in. And you'll get a whole bunch of information on it. Let's see. So he's going to do some basic things here. I won't go into it, but things like if you want to copy a file, or move a file, or delete a file, remove. So CP is copy, MV is move your file, RM is remove. These are just basic commands to get you started. Eventually, what you're going to do is work these into some kind of a loop. So you can copy over all your files at once, or you can move a whole bunch of files at once, or you can delete a whole bunch of files at once. And once you get a hang of this, it makes it very handy for doing all these processes, because you don't have to go in and click every folder or highlight everything. You can just type it into the terminal. It'll do it for you. The only sort of drawback is there are no takebacks. So once you type something into the terminal, it's done. It's pretty much permanent. You tell it delete something, it's gone. There's no undo there really. So here are some things you should be familiar with: copy, move. Let's see. You can also read text files in here. You can write into text files in your terminal. This makes it real handy because you don't have to keep on switching to the GUI or to your desktop. Let's see. And he has more tips here on how to manipulate text files. So we use a lot of text files, neuroimaging, to contain information, to contain directions, to contain processes or even commands. You can write code and enact it from some type of text file to the terminal, which we'll go through this afternoon. And also you can use your software commands. So if you have FSL or AFNI, all these things work through the terminal. And you can use their commands. You just type them in, it'll bring up a whole bunch of instructions, show you how to use it. And then combining sort of your software with some of your coding that you'll learn, you can do for loops and loop through a whole bunch of folders to run a command on each folder, and things like that. So it'll just make your life a lot easier. If you don't know how to code, you're gonna spend hours and hours just moving it by hand. And I think it's better if you spend hours and hours learning the terminal for a week or two, and then it'll make everything much easier. And when you also collaborate with other neuroimagers, pretty much everyone is using Linux or MATLAB or Python or R or something. So when you collaborate with people, it's really important that you also know how to do all these things in the terminal and coding, because everybody else is using these scripts and things like that. So here he goes into setting a variable. So these things are real handy. You can go into that. So for example, if I want to do something like, say I want to make a folder, let's just make a folder. So make directory test. And then we'll cd into this directory test. So there's nothing in there. It's not a user genome my desktop task. So you can make a variable for things like this for I in 1 through we can go 100. Make a directory. Let's see. So this will make a, whoops. Oh, need to do. So you can do something like this, and it will create 100 folders for you real quick. So you can see I just created folders 1 through 100. So that's going to be much faster than creating 100 folders by hand. So think about that, and you can apply that to anything. Copying your folders, moving your folders, creating things. You can basically write a command for one subject and loop it through hundreds of subjects. So the terminal encoding, real important. Again, it'll make your life much easier. And here, Andy's Brain Book again will run you through some of those things, how to make a variable like this. So I just made a variable I, and I'm saying for this variable I, basically replace it for a number from 1 through 100 and loop through it. So the first time I is 1, second time I is 2, 3, 4, it'll loop through it 100 times. And you'll get something like this really quickly. And then you can also remove all these folders, things like this. So really quickly, let's see. And then I just deleted all those 100 folders. So it just makes your life a lot easier to do things through the terminal. So I would highly recommend going through Andy's Brain Book or any other thing on the internet that you can Google and find and learn how to use the terminal. And again, we'll get into this a little bit more this afternoon. So yeah, so he's doing some basic things here. So say if you just wanted to repeat the variable back to you, whoops, we can just go repeat the variable back to us. And then it'll spit out this. And then you can do things like add these to something, append them to something. So just makes your life a lot easier. And then he has some exercises in here to do the basic things through here. And then, like I said, later on this afternoon, we'll do some basic for loops so you can go through subjects. Yeah, so this is a basic introduction to Linux, and then also Andy's Brain Book. Like Lucina said, this is a very valuable resource. I also put on there, or on the Google Doc that we sent out, that you should do this fMRI short course. This will teach you all about task-based fMRI and how to do things, or how to analyze a data set. It takes you through the whole thing. So I'd highly recommend you do this on your own, so you can learn about task-based fMRI. Today, I'll be looking at resting state fMRI in the afternoon. And if you're not sure what that is, we'll talk about the differences. Yeah, so I think that's a short introduction to the Linux terminal. Any questions? No? Okay. So right now, Hyan's gonna introduce us to how to use the terminal to get into Hoffman. Yeah, and other things.
Let me share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to share it. Can you share it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, and Lucina's mentioned earlier, we are part of the analysis core here. So if you have methodological questions about analyses, steps you're not sure of, how you approach X, Y, or Z, you can always contact us and we can hopefully give you some advice on what you're doing, and give you some tips for how to approach things and some of the different methods available for you. So, okay.
Okay, I'm going to give a quick introduction of Hoffman 2 computing environment. So Hoffman 2 is a supercomputer cluster made of over 1,000 of computing nodes. If you have a UCRA logon, you will be able to receive an account and to take advantage of this great computing environment. If you don't have your account yet, you can go to this website sm.idre.ucra.edu and send a request for your account. Your PI will need to give his or her approval also from this same website. And after you get this the approval, you will need to go back to this website again and change the password, so you will be able to use this your account ID and new password to log into Hoffman. This will require UCRA logon, so you'll be able to log into this website, and you will need a campus VPN or mainnet VPN if you're accessing this website from home. We have a Hoffman CCN mailing list where I announced Hoffman related training programs and other people sharing information there as well. So please join CCN Slack. CCN Wiki page has a lot of contents that I'm going to talk about today. Another great resource to learn about Hoffman is IDRE Team's homepage as well. So once you get your Hoffman account, there are several ways to log into Hoffman. One is using SSH client. As Jason has just showed you that you can open your terminal from Mac, or if you're using a Linux client, same, the terminals are built in. If you're using a Windows machine, you can install this called Mobile Xterm or PuTTY to be able to use terminal in Windows. A syntax to log into Hoffman by SSH is SSH your username at hoffman2.idre.ucr.edu. If you're using a graphical program such as FSL, FreeServer, or MATLAB, these are all have GUI interfaces. If you want to open them on your client, but it's running on Huffman, you will need to use this -Y, capital Y option of the SSH. But to make it work, you have to install this XClass for macOS or Xmin if you're using Windows. In that way, you get X11, which will be able to open this GUI interface on your client. So if you have a pretty new Mac and you just recently installed XPlus, the version probably is much newer than 2.8.2, then you will need to type in this default right fork XPlus.x. This line X11, this line is needed to make it work. So you need to type in this in the terminal, and then you need to reboot your Mac, so it will take effect. There are two other GUI tools that you can use to log into Huffman. One is called X2Go, and the other one is No Machine. X2Go is recommended because No Machine has memory leak issue. That's why IDRE team, which is supporting the Huffman cluster, has to reboot the NX servers once a month. If you have old sessions on this NX servers, they will be lost. So X2Go is pretty easy to use if you follow this link. It's the same. I will post this slides on Slack later, so everyone can find it from there. So you can follow this link to find out where to download and how to set up X2Go from CCNBoot page. And X2Go, if you open it, it will look like this. This is a setup window. You will need to input the host name, which are X2Go1 or X2Go2. You can use either of them. You might see that you can use X2Go.Huffman2 on IDRE team's website, but it's recommended to use them separately. In that case, you can troubleshoot better. And you can go back to your old session easily if your session got interrupted. No Machine is the same, has two NX servers that you can connect to. NX1 or NX2, use them separately as well. It's recommended. There's another item that you need to set up for, which is the desktop interface. You can see that it's here in X2Go setup window that TruthMate over others, because this is the most stable version that supported in Huffman 2. Once you log into Huffman 2 with X2Go, you will see a screen like this. It's a typical Linux desktop interface. So once you log into Huffman, you land into your home directory. The home directory normally is under /u/home, and then the first character of your user ID, then /your user ID. The home directory has 40 gig disk quota usage for each user, but make sure that you don't get to the limit to it. Otherwise, you might see several type of weird error message, such as like the file system turn into read only, or you can't edit the files that you created yourself. And sometimes we even see the extreme case that file can be broken when you try to edit it. So make sure that keep your quota not too full. Home folder is backed up for 30 days. That means if you delete a file by mistake and you notice it within 30 days and let IDRE team know, then it's likely that they can get that file back from their backup. There's also a folder normally for each lab that each lab's group folder, but it has to be purchased by each lab. The folder normally start under /u/project and followed by the group name. It's also backed up for 30 days. There's another folder that you can use, which is a little bit special, has 2 terabyte limit, and is faster because you're using flash drive. It's faster than regular hard drive. However, it's not preserved for long purpose, long keeping purpose. The data will be removed after several days. So make sure that if there's data that you want to keep for longer term, you should move them to your home directory or your group folder. Use this folder just for intermediate results or temporary storage. So you can use this my quota command to check how much quota usage you still have or you used already. So from time to time, you should check it and make sure that your home directory still has enough space. If you use U followed by your U option followed by your username, then it will give the quota usage of your user. If you use -G followed by a group name, it will give a very detailed information of your group quota usage, including all the members' usage. Jason just gave a tutorial of Linux commands. If you want to read more, there's a simple tutorial also on CCN Wiki page. Please have a look. Linux provides a way that you can edit this .bashrc file under your home directory in order to set up your personal environment. You can edit this file in many different ways. If you're familiar with Linux editors, there are Vim, Emacs, or Nano, or Gadgets. You can use either of them. They're all supported in Hoffman. Here, we use Gadget for the example because Gadget is very beginner-friendly, has a GUI interface. So if you log into Hoffman from terminal, type in Gadget, tilde is the same thing as capital $ capital home. This just means that it's under your home directory. tilde/.bashrc, type in this and return, and it should open up this .bashrc file, and you should be able to edit it. And there's a line starting with umask, and you should change the number behind it to 007. This is to make sure that the files that created by your user will be able to read and overwritten by your group members, so they will be able to read and or edit the file you created. Is for the group file sharing purpose. Of course, if files not for sharing, it's a different story. The second line module use this path. This is needed when you use CCN provided modules. So modules are softwares that existing in Hoffman, for example, FSL, Presurfer, AFNI, many of them. This neuroimage analysis softwares are provided by CCN through modules. So if you want to use those softwares, you should have this line input into this .bashrc file. If you don't have this line, every time you log into Hoffman and you want to use modules, you have to type in this line. Also, there's option. This part says saying optional. Also, this is just for your own convenience. For example, if you use FSL every time you log into Hoffman, then it's convenient to have this line module load FSL in there. So once you log into Hoffman, FSL will be loaded into the environment, and you don't need to type in the command line every time you log in. Once you log into Huffman, you will be landed on one of the 4 login nodes. Make sure you don't run your analysis on these login nodes because their purpose are just for people to log into the system. Each user has very limited memory usage, so in most cases your analysis will fail if you're trying to do it on these login nodes. To be able to run your analysis, you should get computing nodes. We're going to talk about how to get computing nodes. There are 2 different ways to get computing nodes. One is called interactive mode. You can just type in QRSH into the command line, and then this will reserve a 1 core, 1 GB memory for 2 hours. And if you want more computing resources, then you can type in QRSH-L, followed by L. You can specify each data, for example, equals 4 gig. That means you want 4 gig memory per computing core. And then -P share 2 means you want 2 computing cores. And then HRT shows that how long the session you want to run your job. Here 8 followed by 4 zeros means 8 hours. If you miss 2 zeros, it means 8 minutes. So in total, you will be reserving 2 multiple 4 8 gig here. In regular cases, that jobs in Huffman 2 are allowed only up to 24 hours. But as a CCN user, you will be able to run longer jobs because CCN has contributing nodes. So if you want to run longer than 24-hour jobs, you have to use this high P keyword behind this QRSH-L command. This is just to show the system that you want to use CCN nodes to run your job. If you only specify 72 hours here, for example, but forgot about this high P, then this job will never start, and you will not get any error message as well. If you're running job without GUI interface, and if it's pretty long, it's better to actually use batch mode. So we're going to have a look at this example of batch mode script. Batch mode requires batch script. You create this batch script and submit to the system, and then your job will be running on a work node. So the batch script has 3 parts. The first part that is that you tell the system how much resource you want. If you look at these 2 lines, -L HRT8 is data 4 gig, P share 2, you can tell that it's pretty same as what we saw earlier with QRSH command. It's pretty, there are other lines. This, for example, means that you want the output to go into a file called joblog dot this $job ID. $job ID is a job ID each time the system assign to your job automatically. This line means that you want the error message to go into the same job log as well. So it's different from the interactive mode that for batch mode, you cannot log into this work node and you cannot check what's going on with your job. So you have to monitor your jobs through this job log file. So that's why this job log is important. Also, I recommend to take advantage of this mail notification. You should keep this lines the same. Don't change this line. You can change the last line where that you can decide when the notification will be sent out, before or at the end, or when the job is aborted, that notification will be sent by this setting. Also, if your job is, you can find out your job successfully completed or it's failed, aborted for some reason. If it completed, how much memory you use, you can all find from this notification email. So the next part of this file is loading an environment for running your script. If you are using CCN module for your script, then you should have this line. Set it up here so the system knows where to find CCN modules. Also, if you use FSL, for example, for your analysis, then you have to load FSL with module load command and export other environments. So your script will be able to run. The last part, the third part is where your script comes in to run your analysis. So once you create your batch script, you should use gmod u plus x. This means to give your user executive permit to run this script. So once you change the permit, and then you can submit to the system, Huffman to system, by using this qsub command in front of this file name. And after that, then the system will respond back saying your job followed by a series number. This is your job ID, and then followed by your file name and has been submitted. So if you have set up the job log file naming the same way as in the example that I just showed in the script, there will be a file called job log dot followed by this job ID will be created once your job start running in the same directory where you submit your job. Once you submit your job, doesn't mean your job will start running right away. It depends on how busy the system cluster is or how much resources you're requesting. If you're requesting a lot of resources, it can take quite a long time to find available server and run your job. So to be able to find out which what's the status of your job, you can use command my job, and this will show all the jobs that are running under your user ID. So you find that the state will show, if it shows QW, it means your job is still waiting in the queue to be processed. If it changed to R, that means it started running already. And if you use qstat -u with your user ID, this will pretty much give the same result as my job. If you have your job ID and with qstat -j with your job ID, this will show a lot of details of your job, which is still running. So modules are environmental modules, are softwares in Huffman. And for example, Python, MATLAB, Vessel, FreeSurfer, these are all existing in Huffman as modules. Whenever you need to use them, you need to load them into your environment first. And it's pretty easy to use these module commands if you want to, for example, see what versions are there with Python in Huffman 2. You can type in module AV is short of available, module AV Python. It will give you a list that all the versions you can use. Then you can type in module load Python, that will give you the default version. If you want to use a different version from the default, then you need to specify the version like this. So once you loaded it, and you want to see if it's loaded in your environment or not, you can type in module list. This will list all the modules in your environment. If you want to remove Python from your environment, or you want to change a different version, you just want to remove it the current version, you can type in module remove Python. It will remove the current version and you can load it with module load again. And module purge will remove all the modules that are loaded in your current environment. The CCN has many different modules that for neuroimaging research, FSL, free surfer, and many more. FSL, you can use module load FSL, and then after that, you just type in FSL or FSL eyes. The GUI interface will start. Same thing for free surfer. MATLAB is provided by ADR team, and if you want to use a GUI interface, make sure that you start interactive mode first with at least 8 GB. Sometimes you need 16 GB to launch this MATLAB GUI interface to load MRI images. SPM is a popular MATLAB library. If you want to use it, you have to export this MATLAB path. Following this, the path to the version that you want to use, 8 or 12, and then you start MATLAB and type in SPM in MATLAB prompt, then SPM will be started. So CCN has Wikipage has all the list for the CCN modules that you can use on Hoffman. You can see that it's a really long list, and also includes some introduction that if you need to preload other libraries, if you want to use some of them, please have a look at this page. So is there any questions?
Is it Hoffman free if you use the Scratch or your home folder?
Yeah, it's free. If you
Okay.
have a DCRA logon email address account, and then you can get Hoffman 2 account, and you can use all the computing nodes. Yes, for free, but not CCN nodes, of course. And the biggest problem is storage. Yes, you will only have this 40 GB under your home directory. Yes, Scratch, you totally can take advantage of it, but you probably have to shuffle data around all the time because it does not preserve your data for long, definitely not longer than a week.
Yeah.
Is there other questions?
Yeah. So for Hoffman, you can also pay if you can get your PI to buy you storage. Then you don't have to shuffle data.
Right. It's not expensive. For 1 TB for a year, it's like 140 something. Yeah, you can purchase storage from ADR team.
But I'll still recommend using the free space if you can. It'll process data much faster than your personal computer. So
Right, especially if you have hundreds of subjects to processing, definitely need some cluster like this to accelerate your analysis.
yeah. Thank you. Any questions? I know it seems very confusing what you just went over, but come back to this talk later once you get into Hoffman. It'll make a lot of sense and help you a lot. So definitely mark this.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time today, so if you have questions, let me know. You can email me to my email address. I can help you from there.
Yes. And Haiyan also puts on seminars every once in a while to go over things with Linux and supercomputer and things like that. Okay. So if there are no questions, I'll just say, please have your, or if you went to the CCN document we sent out, the Google Doc, please download all those things, have FSL installed, get SPM to work, and download the data for the afternoon session. We'll be going into MATLAB and looking at data. So see everyone at 2 o'clock.
The two. Afternoon sessions at 2. That afternoon sessions at 2, okay. All right, thanks.
All right, everyone, see you then.
Great, we got the recording, for those who couldn't make it. All right, thanks, everyone.